Welcome in to the Sports Objective Podcast, the unofficial podcast of the Pirates. Very big show, obviously. We're missing Kyle from LaGrange, a little under the weather. We'll see if he makes an appearance. Well, hopefully so. We're missing him tonight. So, Kyle, buddy, hopefully you're feeling better. With us right now from China Grove, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Pirate himself, Bubba Rosenbaum. What's up?
What's going on, guys?
Want to say hello. And one of our favorite guests that we've had on, pretty much going all the way back to the summer of 2018. So pretty much, Ron, we've been doing the show 2.5 years. You've been pretty much with us all but a few months. So glad to have our next guest.
Yeah, East Carolina alum, veteran writer. That's what we talk college football, NFL, MLB, national parks, you name it. Welcome into the show, Ron Clements.
Thanks, Bubba. Hey, Dave.
Hey, welcome in. Got a lot to talk to you, my friend. That's why we wanted to have you on tonight. First of all, this has to be, as a sports writer, is this like sports overload, or is this like your Christmas? Because there's so many storylines, so many things to talk about. If you add college and pro sports, how do you feel about it right now? Is it too much, or is this a sports writer's dream?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm really looking forward to seeing all the fans at the Saints game and LSU and Southern Miss because I'm in the Louisiana, the New Orleans area right now. Well, and let me say, I was looking forward to seeing all of that, but obviously I will not be seeing that stuff because very few fans allowed. Heck, I'm from Wisconsin, and I would have loved to have been in attendance for the Monday night or the Sunday night game, rather, with the Saints and Packers at the Superdome. I've never been to the Superdome before, and that would have been fun. But as far as a lot of things going on, though, yeah, college football is back. The NFL, Major League Baseball with its expanded playoff format. The NBA's reached the finals. Congratulations to the Tampa Bay Lightning for winning the Stanley Cup championship. I was hoping my St. Louis Blues would repeat, but that didn't happen. It's definitely been a packed September for sports. But with the news that the Titans had positive COVID tests, we'll just have to see if other things are going to pop up, and are they going to have any cases or incidents like baseball has had with the Marlins and Cardinals, especially, where they had several games postponed. I mean, it's something to kind of keep an eye on. Fortunately for the NFL, they do have a bye week factored in there. The Titans are supposed to play the Steelers this week. The Steelers bye week is week 8. The Titans bye week is week 7. But the Steelers opponent in week 8, I think, has a bye week in week 7. So I think that can maybe be fixed a little bit to where, like, the Steelers get that bye week or play week 7. I don't know. Anyway, the schedule should be able to be tweaked if they need to, but they're still planning on playing on Sunday. I don't see how that's going to happen, though, if the Titans can't even practice until Saturday. I don't know. It's just this whole year has been so weird, and especially when it comes to sports.
Hey, Ron, before we circle back around and talk some more NFL and bring it back closer to home and talk some East Carolina football, with you being an alum, you're talking about being down in Louisiana. How about what transpired down in Louisiana over the weekend with Mike Leach and Mississippi State going into Tiger Stadium, albeit a Tiger Stadium that had, about 20 or 25,000 instead of what it typically has. But nonetheless, I'm going in there, still impressive, 44-34. The Bulldogs came out on top.
Yeah, that was a surprising win. Mike Leach has had success. He's a weird guy, but he's actually had success pretty much wherever he's gone. Hopefully he doesn't steal another East Carolina player to go to Mississippi State like he got Gardner Minshew to go up to Washington State. But, that was probably the most shocking result of last Saturday. I had joked with East Carolina against Central Florida that, hey, just hold UCF under 50. And hey, they were close, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, we had joked leading into that game, Kyle and I, as well as Dave, and we had talked about how we could literally score 50 and lose, and that turned out to be the case.
Yeah.
At least they had a 7-0 lead, though, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Ron, we were talking about the very fact of a game like Central Florida is so hard with UCF because they're like a well-oiled machine. And I was hoping and praying for some kind of upset, and I predicted that. But the reality is with us right now, as I was telling you before, that off air, I believe, that we've got a team now that under Mike Houston that's had there's guys that haven't had a winning season, they've never won a winning.
Yeah.
They haven't had a winning season while they're there. So what's happening is there was some bright spots in that game. When he got to the middle of the second quarter, I looked at it, Bubba, and I'm not normally the numbers guy, Bubba, but I think it was the 4:58 mark of the second, like 4 minutes and 58 seconds left in the second quarter, or the first half, if you will. That's when they scored that touchdown. And all of a sudden, it seemed like the momentum went, even though they'd had the 3 turnovers that only got the 3 points. That's when, to me, I saw things to start to unravel for the Pirates. And so it seems like that there's bright spots. They're finding some plays here and there, some nice plays and scoring and all that. But the biggest test will be when Mike Houston gets that first signature win. And then you say, okay, I remember, and looking back in hindsight, you can say, I remember that game was a game that really turned things around for the Pirates. And I don't know when that game will be, but I do know that with the running backs, when you look at tight ends, when you look at the quarterback room is the best it's ever. I mean, Bubba, has there been a better time with your quarterback? It just seems like we're really deep at that position more than we ever have been, and we're talented too.
We're definitely deeper than we have been in a while. I mean, like Kyle and I were talking the other night when we had Shane Carden, and then you had Kurt Benkert seemingly waiting in the wings, and then he went down with the ACL injury in fall camp of 2015. Not a bad room right there. And then back in the Logan years, I mean, you had when Crandall went down in '96, you had Danny Gonzalez ready to step right in, and Dan Gonzalez had a cup of coffee or more with the Dallas Cowboys. So we've had some deep quarterback rooms, but yeah, I mean, you can take a look now at Holton, and then hopefully Mason Garcia will turn out everything he's supposed to be, and got some others that are similarly pretty good behind him. So we'll see. But I agree with you as far as the game in general. I mean, you were 13-7, and the Pirates were hanging in there, and the defense was bending but not breaking, forcing some field goals. But you had a blown coverage, and then from that 5 or 6 minute mark, in the first half, it went from 13-7 to about 5 minutes in the second half, we're all of a sudden down 41-7. So you had a 4 touchdown swing in about 10 or 11 minutes of action.
Yeah, because you had Ron, you had the one there, the 4:58 mark. Then you had another one late, very, very late, almost halftime. So that's 2 scores right there that you give up. And then, like Bubba said, all of a sudden it's 41-7. They're a great team. They're a great program, great coach. I don't agree with Gabe.
But
I don't
still
agree.
can't.
I don't. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Still can't crack the top 10 with the voters in the rankings, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. They definitely are a top 10 program. There's no question about it. And I do think that Miami is I don't know, Miami or Florida, which one of you? Definitely it's not Florida State. But whichever team you think, what team do you guys think is the best in Florida? Who would you say?
Oh, UCF without a doubt. And Antoine Staley, another former another East Carolina alumnus, he disagrees with me. Antoine actually said replied to me on Twitter when he was like, I can name 10 teams nationally better than UCF. Of course, then he didn't. But I was like, all right, which team out there can UCF not beat? And there was no answer. because UCF can play with anybody. I don't care if it's Alabama or well, I would say Oklahoma, but they lost. But it doesn't matter who you put on the field with UCF. They're going to be in the game. They're going to have a chance to win. It could be Ohio State, Wisconsin, Penn State, Alabama, USC. I don't care. UCF could play with anybody, and it's unfortunate they don't get the national respect that they should have. Boise State kind of has that because of what they've done in bowl games, but I don't understand why UCF doesn't get the same treatment that Boise State gets. And maybe it's because they boasted the 2017 national championship, which I recognize that. I recognize UCF as the 2017 national champs. They're the only undefeated team. They beat the team that was the only team to beat Alabama that year. And so and you mentioned Miami, and by the way, Antoine thinks Florida is the best team in the state of Florida, but because they're ranked like 5th in the country. And Kyle Trask is a heck of a quarterback. I was watching some of that game Saturday before I had to go to my son's wedding reception, but so admittedly, I did not actually watch the East Carolina UCF game. I was following the scores because my son's wedding reception was Saturday, so I was a bit busy with that. But I did watch some of the Florida game, and I do like Kyle Trask. But I saw some of the highlights of UCF, and I watched UCF a week earlier. And Dylan Gabriel, I think you were getting ready to mention him, Dave. Dylan Gabriel is a hell of a player, and he should be in the Heisman discussion. But with Miami, though, in the American Athletic Conference, they've got a quarterback from Houston, used to play at Houston, De'Aaron King, and he's in the Heisman conversation. It just goes to show you that what kind of talent these schools from the American Athletic Conference have when a guy like De'Aaron King can go from Houston to Miami and just take over and have success. And now, after 2 weeks, he's right now, apparently he's the odds-on favorite in Las Vegas to the Heisman. And, this is a guy who was at Houston 2 years ago. I had to sit out last year. But, the American Athletic Conference has so much talent, so much depth. And I don't understand why, when the Big East was one of the automatic qualifying conferences in the BCS, when those basketball schools left, I have no idea why the American didn't get the same treatment that the Big East got. Maybe it was because in the last year there was an 8-4 UConn team that was the conference champ and went out to the Fiesta Bowl and just got killed. Or maybe it was that was Pitt. Anyway, it was either Pitt or UCF. There was a 4-loss Big East team in the last year that I believe that's right. Went out to the Fiesta Bowl and lost. But if the Big East was,
I'm pretty sure, Ron, it happened with
a Power 6. What's that?
I was saying that I'm pretty sure that happened with both UConn and Pittsburgh. I'm not sure. I'm not so sure that both of them were 8-4. I know Pitt was 8-4. I can't recall with UConn if they were 8-4 or 9-3, but nonetheless, they went out to the Fiesta Bowl and didn't play very well.
But you guys follow me on Twitter, and I mean, people out there think I'm a UCF fan or like a UCF alum because I am touting them like I've been high on UCF for the last 3 years, but the year before that I was high on Western Michigan, and the year before that it was I think it was Houston, and I remember going back all the way back to 1998. I was like, when Tulane was undefeated, I'm just like, hey, give Tulane a shot at one of the big boys. 1999, Marshall goes undefeated. I never refer to this so-called Power 5 as the Power 5. I always use so-called Power 5 because the talent gap between the other conferences, especially the American and the Mountain West, is not this vast chasm. There is so much parity in college football, and it extends beyond the Pac-12, the SEC, the Big Ten, the Big 12. and the ACC. And I would go as far as to say the American might be a better overall conference than the Pac-12, the Big 12, and the ACC.
Yeah, you talk about that discrepancy. The only discrepancy that really exists, as far as a significant discrepancy, is the ones with the likes of your Clemsons and Alabamas, and there's a discrepancy with everybody as far as
they're so far better than every other team in their own conference.
Right, exactly.
And the problem I have, Ron, is that my thing is this. I've said it all along, as long as we've been doing the podcast and before that my problem that I have is when they have the group of five, as they're saying, and the Power Five, we're doing exactly the same thing the Power Five, quote unquote, Power Five schools are doing. Cost of attendance, all that, we're doing all that kind of stuff that they're doing. There's nothing different. And just like you pointed out with Gabriel at UCF, you look at De'Aaron King, who was at Houston, and that we've got a lot of great talent. Mike Houston's doing a fabulous job, in my opinion, and the coaching staff with recruiting. I mean, this is arguably the best recruiting we've ever had at East Carolina. If not, it's pretty dang close. And so that's my frustration is when you look at, if you're a quote unquote power league, I know Kyle's not on with us tonight, not feeling well, but he makes a great point. The NC States of the world and the Wake Forests of the world, they don't want us to have the quote unquote autonomy status and all that because they'll get left behind. And that's the problem, that there's a lot of subpar Power Five schools that don't want other schools to pass them, even though they really are technically past them anyway. They just don't have that status. So I think that and there's like I've said before, the college football playoff is nothing more than a made-for-TV event. If they really wanted to make a lot of money, put the UCFs of the world in there, because imagine what is so wrong. I'm not a UCF fan, okay, but if you look as the big picture college football fan, what would be so wrong with UCF winning a national championship if they were put in the Final Four, so to speak, in the college football playoff?
The NCAA embraces Cinderella when it comes to March with the basketball tournament. They want the Maryland, Baltimore counties to beat Virginia, right? But it seems like they're scared of it when it comes to college football in January. And how much national fanfare was there in, I think it was 2015 when Coastal Carolina won College World Series? It was a huge story. It was a feel-good story. Coastal Carolina, the little Chanticleers from Conway, South Carolina, win the baseball national championship. And that's what college football is missing. And it's a self-inflicted wound. For whatever reason, they don't want it. And it makes no sense to me.
And I mention all the time, hey,
Alabama, every damn year.
Hey, Bubba, I mention all the time the fact that Bubba is his number one thing as far as football would be college football over pro. Pro football is number one in America. Number two, as far as overall sports, is college football. Football, for Bubba's sake, could be the number one sport in America if they did the playoff the right way. I'm serious. They can make way more money. There's more interest at the college level, but the pro football is going to continue to be the king of the United States as far as sports until college football gets their act together. That's just, speaking of being objective, that's being objective, because every year you see pro football number one and number one sport.
The college football playoff never should have been part of the bowl games. It never should have been part of the bowl system. If you want to fix it, don't expand to 8 teams. Hold the bowl games like you normally would if there was no playoff. The Big Ten and Pac-12 go to the Rose Bowl. The SEC champ goes to the Sugar Bowl, the playing at large. The Big 12 and the ACC champ go to the Fiesta Bowl. The American, as I mentioned before, the old Big East champ used to go to the Fiesta Bowl. So the American champ goes to the Fiesta Bowl to play an at-large team. The SEC runner-up and the ACC runner-up go to the Peach Bowl. The The Big Ten runner-up and the SEC runner-up. Actually, the SEC runner-up would not go to the Peach Bowl. It'd be the SEC number 3. But the SEC runner-up and the Big Ten runner-up go to the Citrus Bowl. The Conference USA champ, as we know, because East Carolina went there a couple times, the Conference USA champ goes to the Liberty Bowl, right? So go back to the old bowl tie-ins, play the bowl games, and when the bowl games are done, when they're over, then you pick the best 4 team. Don't use the bowl games as part of the playoff, because it does such a disservice to the teams outside of that so-called Power 5 who could have a chance to knock off one of the big boys. And I bring up 2017 as an example for obvious reasons, because if UCF had gone to the Fiesta Bowl to play an at-large team, Georgia was the SEC champ. Georgia would have gone to the Sugar Bowl to play an at-large team. That would not have been Alabama. They're not going to put 2 SEC teams in the Sugar Bowl against each other. Alabama likely would have been that at-large team to play UCF in the Fiesta Bowl. Who would not have wanted to see that? And then if UCF wins, they're a lock for the college football playoff, right? So hold the playoff after the bowl games. Keep it at 4 teams, but just move the damn thing. And for people who say, "Oh no, they should just go to an 18 playoff," because holding a 14 playoff after the bowl games would extend the season too far. It would literally be the same number of games for the 2 teams playing in the championship game. It'd be the same number of games.
Ron and Bubba, I have no problem with. Yeah, sorry, it was a little bit of lag.
Sorry, Dave,
continue. I was just going to simply say I have no problems with anything's better than what we have right now, and stop they just need to be honest and say, yeah, it's just a made-for-TV event. They just need to be honest, because every year Ohio State doesn't even play a game yet, and they're number 2 in the nation still. I don't understand how you can rank a team that's not even playing. It's not preseason, obviously. It's preseason. That's one thing if it's an early poll, but Ohio State's going to get in there because they're Ohio State, and you got to have Clemson in there, and you have to have Alabama, and you got to have Oklahoma will probably win the rest of their games. And if it's something like, I know, Bubba, you were talking about, it's right. We need to have it where there's so much chaos, because if we have something like that again, it'll be like, here we go again. It's another year of the same type of teams up there with the likes of, again, Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. I mean, how many times can you see that playoff? Eventually, it's going to get to the point where those of us that are real fans, we're just going to get – the fatigue has been there already with Alabama and Clemson, right? And no disrespect, and it's not disrespect to those fan bases or those schools. I'm just saying there's other good schools out there that deserve to be there. It's nothing against the ones that are in there, but let's see some parity in there. Let's see some Cinderella story. Like, I mean, my God, we love the movies, like with all the Rocky franchise for a reason. We love an underdog. I mean, not maybe Rocky 5, but but we love the Rocky movies for a reason.
And that's why I think holding the playoff after the bowl games would be such a good thing, because you would have all these storylines. You wouldn't just have 4 teams picked by this horrible disaster of a committee of a baker's dozen selecting these 4 teams clearly on bias. I mean, look at the rankings right now. You mentioned Oklahoma with a loss, and LSU lost. LSU and Oklahoma are still ranked of Memphis in the most recent poll, and that doesn't make any sense. But if you hold the playoff after the bowl games, in that 2017 season, the Orange Bowl would have been Clemson and Oklahoma. Basically, playoff play-in game. So you would have as many as 8 to 12 teams vying for a 14 playoff in the bowl games, and it would make the bowl games more relevant, because right now, unless if you're a semifinal, who really cares about the bowl games? You could have a 2-loss Big Ten team going out to play a 2-loss Pac-12 team in the Rose Bowl because they're not the conference champions, and the conference champs are going to the playoff, right? But if those conference champs went to the Rose Bowl, maybe the Rose Bowl would actually sell out, because the freaking Rose Bowl hasn't been selling out for the last few years. And it's because the playoff is part of the bowl games. Make the bowl games relevant and move the playoff to after the bowl games. That's how you fix everything, in my opinion. It seems
that's interesting.
simple.
Sorry, Ron. Again, there's like a little bit of lag. I apologize. I was just going to say that, add to that, the very point of when you were talking about the relevance of the bowl games. If you're a fan and you say, I want to see my school and I want to see my team play in the bowl game, right? And then you've got this hot star guy that's potentially going to the NFL. They're opting out. They're not playing the games anymore because it's basically an exhibition game. I hate to say that. That
Right.
sounds so cheap. And I don't want to say that word as much as I love the bowl system. Growing as a kid, growing up in the late 70s and 80s, the bowl system is very special to me. But if you make a great point. If there was something to play for, you help the fans out because they're getting the money's worth. And my God, the bowl system, as far as the towns, those bowls, and if you know that John Smith is not going to play in the Rose Bowl, I'm not spending my money to come to Pasadena. I'm not going to buy hotels.
Right.
I'm not buying the tickets and all that. So I hadn't thought about that from that standpoint. The how many would opt out if they know that, you know what, we're in a play-in game. If we win this game, punch our ticket potentially to the playoff. That's a good point. I've never crossed my mind.
Yeah, do you think Leonard Fournette sits out the LSU's bowl game a few years ago if they have an opportunity to play for a national championship? No way.
But he knew he was not going to be playing for a national championship, and that's why he opted out. And that hurts the bowls.
Exactly.
It hurts the cities, and it hurts the fans who, this is topic. I'm not going to go off on a tangent, but the same thing like with a lot of these players resting, and the NBA has been a problem they've had for a long time. If my son is a huge NBA fan, if I paid money, and I tried to this year, but COVID messed it up. I was trying to take him to see the Hornets. Had it worked out the Hornets, and literally 3 days away. It was like 3 or 4 days away. I'm taking my son to see LeBron James, one of his favorite players, play against the Hornets. And Bubba probably remembers this. Literally the Wednesday night before the Saturday game is when that close to my son seeing that. Now imagine if I pay for those tickets and I'm getting a break. I know somebody who has tickets, so I'm not going to be paying like StubHub kind of money. But they were very good seats, and I literally could have gone to that arena and not see LeBron James play. It's a whole different storyline, but the same concept of you go there, see your home team play LeBron James. So, and it's not happening. But the same thing with college football, these players opting out. You don't blame them for opting out, but it does suck that they're not playing. And I know Bubba's got like 10 DVRs. He's got like every bowl game recorded. I do watch the games like Bubba, but he knows like 10 times more than I do like about each individual game. We were all talking about how much we love the bowls, but you're exactly right. There needs to be some kind of freshening up of that. I wanted to segue, if we can, guys, because you've been generous with your time already, Ron, about the major. Can you help me with being that you're a Major League Baseball writer? Please help me with the new format. I told you today I was homeschooling and I was going to look over it. I knew you were coming on. I'm a huge baseball fan, but I don't know the pairings and all that and how all the rules I know the old system or the most recent system, and I know why we're doing it, but can you help me out with a 16-team format?
Well, I'm not a big fan of it. I'm trying to pull it up as far as the matchups go. But I'm not a big fan of the teams who are under 500 getting in with the 16 teams. It just it seems like it waters it down. Baseball has been one of the most restrictive when it comes to postseason teams. They expanded it a few years ago to have that extra wild card team. That they basically play a 1-game play-in game. But in the American League, you've got the Rays as the number 1 seed. There are no teams under 500 in the American League, so that's good. But the Rays are playing the Blue Jays. As the Rays are the number 1 seed. Indians are playing the Yankees. Twins, Astros, and then the A's are the number 2 seed against the White Sox. By the way, the White Sox are kind of a sneaky good team. I have the White Sox going to the ALCS in my in my picks as a number 7 seed. But in the American League, you've got the Dodgers, who are, in my opinion, far and away the best team in baseball this year.
Yeah,
the Dodgers are playing the Brewers, who are two games under 500. The Padres playing the Cardinals, Cubs playing the Marlins, and the Braves playing the Reds. And I guess the Brewers are the only team under 500 in this postseason format. But
who likes the Brewers there, Ron?
I'm a huge fan of the Brewers. I was 8 years old when the Brewers went to the World Series in 1982, and I fell in love with them. Bob Uecker is still the play-by-play guy he was then. I grew up listening to Bob Uecker. Love Bob Uecker. But I've got the Rays beating the White Sox in the ALCS and the Dodgers beating the Cubs. So both Chicago teams making it to the League Championship Series. And then I've got the Dodgers beating the Rays in the World Series. Those are my picks.
Ron. Yeah, Ron.
And I tweeted that out. You can see it right there. I tweeted that out yesterday.
I'll check it out. I was going to ask you about one of the teams I'm reading for the talking heads as far as baseball that people are, I won't say it's a dark horse, but a really nice story is the Padres. They haven't had the success in recent times that maybe, when you have that division is tough. When you have the likes of San Francisco, the Giants seem like they win all the time, and the Dodgers are paying $2 billion. I'm not really. They're paying a huge. That I know that was exaggeration, but they're paying a lot of money for the payroll. And I have, in fact, my barber. I want to get a better haircut because he's a huge Dodger fan, and I pull for the Nationals. So the Nationals won, and maybe that's why I've been not getting good haircuts lately. But he actually has been pulling for the Dodgers for forever, and he's like wondering, when are we going to win the World Series, because they've had good teams and they've choked. What is it, 88? Ron, I was in high school last time with Kirk Gibson hit that home run.
Yep.
And it would be good for also one of my favorite announcers of all time. I'm a huge fan of Vin Scully. I think that guy is like, that may sound sacrilegious. He's pretty, in the sports world, he's a god to me, and the broadcasting world. Yeah, royalty, no doubt. And I'd love to see another ring. He's getting up there, and he's actually on Twitter now, which is really cool to be in his 80s.
He actually retired from broadcasting, so I don't know if he'd get a ring because he hasn't been working this year.
No. I mean, I'm just saying for him to see the team win again, not that he would be doing that.
But honestly, if the Dodgers won the World Series this year, they would probably just send Vin Scully a World Championship ring.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. Oh my God.
Scully, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, Bubba, Ron, Bubba's favorite team is the Atlanta Braves, and they're another team that are due. I mean, I'm not saying they will, but they're a team that I mean, what was it, 90? Was it 96 or 96?
When they won
the Braves? Yeah.
It was 95. The strike.
95. 95. Okay, I knew I always get that wrong. But they had so many great teams with Bobby Cox, and we know all that story. But they seem to be on the rise and do. But I do 16-team format. I mean,
yeah, I'm not a fan. I would have liked 12. And even like in the NBA, I'm not a fan of more than half of the league getting into the playoffs. It's just to me, it's dumb. The playoffs should be a reward for a good season, not a reward for mediocrity. Basically, like a team like the Brewers this year at 29-31, getting into the playoffs to get probably annihilated by the Dodgers in 2 games is like a 5-7 Georgia Tech team going to a bowl game because they have to fill it.
Ron, we'll take East Carolina. We'll take it, baby. We'll have 12 games, but we'll take if we win 3 or 4 games and we get to a bowl this year. They're talking about doing away with the records. How about you, Bubba? Are you going to tell John Gilbert we need to stay home?
Yeah, this team we just need to play football games regardless of what it would mean. And, yes, you wouldn't typically be playing in a bowl, but if you can get 15 extra practices and another ball game for this program has 55 new players. You certainly do it.
Let's bring in Ron if we can. Let's bring in stay with us if you can. Jay Sonnhalter, obviously a guy that knows about extra football practice. Jay, what's up, buddy?
What up? What up, Dave, Bubba, my man Ron? It's been a minute.
Hey, Jay.
I remember you when we were both 21 out there, when we were young out at ECU.
Yeah.
Look at us, all of us.
Now?
We all doing good. I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing well. You're working as a broadcaster now, huh?
Yeah, I'm in. I have a sales job. I do sales to eye doctor offices, but I also do broadcasting as well. So I do color analyst for football. So staying
funny
in the game.
story. I'm at a baseball game in 2018 as part of our. I don't know if you know, but I know Dave and Bubba know. In 2018, my wife and I went to all Major League Baseball stadiums in a single season.
Yeah.
And we're in Phoenix on the back end of that trip, and we're at Chase Field, and I see a guy wearing an East Carolina hat walk by me. He was going up. He was going up the row, and it was a bigger dude. It was freaking Zach Baker.
It was Zach Baker. Yeah, he was my roommate in college.
Yeah, and it was so random to run into him at a freaking Arizona Diamondbacks game.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, he lives out in Scottsdale. In fact, I think either he told me about that or you told me about that. But yeah, that's awesome. We're everywhere.
Right? Pirate Nation.
Yeah, we're strong.
Yeah, good stuff there. And how do you guys feel about that? About the very fact of next, Bubba? I know that they haven't voted on it yet. I think it's next month for the NCAA. That because of the problems we have with the leagues already, they already discrepancy about number of games this year. Some are conference only. Some are playing 8 games. Some are playing 6 games, 7 games, 10 games. All the across the board, different amounts of games. So they're talking about they're not going to use that bar, if you will, of 6 games that you have to win at least 6 games to make it to the bowl games. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, I think you should have a winning record. If you play 8 games, you should be 5-3 in order to be bowl eligible. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to have a winning record. I think you, obviously need to be good, but I just think even from a player's perspective, like if you don't have a winning record, like it's almost like you don't deserve to be like in a bowl game. Like if you're, 3-5 or in a normal season 5-7, I wouldn't even feel right playing in a bowl game. So, I think I agree with Ron. I think you have to have a winning record.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, Jay, and I agree, obviously, Ron as well. But with the number of bowl games, it is
42 games.
There's no way around it, unfortunately. I don't guess. Just need to eliminate some bowl games, but
that's the key. Yeah.
I think if you're in, I'm trying to think of some of the recently added bowl games. The Arizona Bowl, the one down in Tucson, which is added a couple of years ago, I think. If there are not enough 6-win teams or teams with winning records to fill that bowl game, just don't play it. There's no reason to play it.
Isn't it, Bubba? I know there's one or two. There may be two that are opted out. I think it was the Hunger Bowl and San Fran. There's only one that
I
I
think
know
you're
of
right.
officially. There's only one officially run, and Jay, that I know about. I think it's out in San Francisco that said they're not going to do it this year. And I had heard rumors of one or two more. I haven't been able to confirm that. And I asked the fellows to help me out, but so far the only one I know of is that one, the Hunger Bowl.
Yeah, I think this year's going to be a different dynamic. I mean, once we get to the winter here, and depending on if fans can even come, and advertising and money, I mean, I know money and economics have a lot to do with it, but I mean, yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, nobody really wants to watch a bowl game where there's teams that aren't good enough or don't have winning records. But I do know on the other end of it, I know it's economic or, publicity and advertising and a lot of things that go into it.
And here's another thing, guys. Bubba, help me out on this. If you're the numbers guy, and Jay and Ron, maybe y'all can help me too, is the very fact that most of the time when East Carolina, back in the day in the 90s, when we were going to bowls, in my era, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But during that time, I'll never forget about how much, I was so excited about us going to bowls. And then I heard that it actually costs us more to go to the bowl than it does that we actually bring, that we actually make. I know the exposure, and I'm not saying I would ever turn down a bowl. I used to be so snobby about, oh my God, I hope East Carolina doesn't go to this bowl. And now I'm like, man, every bowl is looking good right now when you're outside looking in.
Well, Jay, didn't you play in the PapaJohns.com bowl?
Yeah, so I was actually hurt during that game, but I was there. Yeah, I was there for the bowl game. So I was on the sideline on crutches. But that was.
I remember there was a national story a few years ago when Georgia Tech went to Boise to play in the Idaho Bowl, and Georgia Tech paid more than it cost Georgia Tech more to go than it did than what they got from playing in the game. But Jay, I have a question for you as a former player, and with this whole dynamic with COVID-19.
Yeah.
You at Downey Ficklin Stadium when you were playing, because the teams were pretty good. The Fick was usually rowdy and loud. But have you played in just an empty, dead stadium? And if so, how is that different from a player's perspective in terms of not having the noise when you're used to something really loud and raucous?
Yeah, I mean, when you're in a stadium like ECU or, some of the other ones that are crowded, packed, I mean, it's so much fun. It changes the level of intensity, the excitement, the pressure. I mean, just everything. What these guys are going through now with no one in the stands, I mean, no one will say it, but it's got to be terrible, because that's half the fun, is going out there and playing in front of a lot of people. So, I mean, football, I love football, but I mean, that's what you play is for kind of the reward of the game day atmosphere. So yeah, it's weird. As far as playing in front of nobody, I never played in front of nobody, but I mean, back then in some of those Conference USA away games, I mean, I remember playing at Rice and no one was really there. In some of those away games where the teams weren't very good, and it's tough to get up for it.
What about focus? I mean, is that an issue when there's hardly anybody there?
I mean, I would say you always have to be focused, because like you're getting graded and there's always film on you and there's always TV, on you. So you got to perform, because that you're being evaluated either by fans or by coaches. But as far as focus, I would say you're still focused, but you have to be very self-motivated and have to have, that intrinsic juice to get going. And for some people, if they don't have that, I guess, motivation, then they could lose focus. Yeah. So, I mean,
you're not feeding off the crowd energy.
Yeah. I mean, I think teams, I think this year you're going to see a lot of teams win games that maybe they shouldn't have won or wouldn't have won in the past, or vice versa, because there's not going to be the home field advantage. And maybe some teams are younger, and maybe that benefits them or whatever. But I think there's going to be a lot more upsets this year because of that.
Watching the Sunday night game between the Packers and Saints there, Chris Collinsworth and Mike Tirico were talking about how much Aaron Rodgers was able to change things at the line and communicate with his players because there was nobody there. Whereas in the Superdome, in normal seasons, everything would have been a silent count and hand signals and everything like that because he would not have been able to have that communication.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah, well, it evens the playing field. I mean, in pros, they have the ability to do that way more than in college. But I mean, like you look at in college, like even Mississippi State and LSU this weekend, it would have been a lot tougher for Mississippi State to win that game, if there was a full crowd there. Or, I mean, I remember when I was in college, we played at West Virginia and Virginia Tech. I mean, half the reason those teams are so good was because of their home field advantage. So if you don't have that, I mean, it really makes things a lot simpler and a lot easier. I think especially like in a place like the SEC, I mean, I think some of those teams going on the road, it's not going to be as tough as it was in the past to win.
And Jay, earlier in the show, before you joined us, Ron and I and Dave, we were talking about that with what Mississippi State did going into Tiger Stadium and winning in Mike Leach's debut.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the question for Mississippi State, would be is their defense going to be good? Because we know their offense is going to be good, but is their defense going to be able to hold up? And then B, are they going to be able to, maybe run the ball in the SEC against these really good defensive lines when, they're going to majority of the time pass the ball? And I mean, I think in at least one game, LSU is probably not as good, obviously, as last year with all the new people, and then there was no home field advantage. But that was really impressive to go on the road still and kind of dominate them to a degree and win that game the way they did, especially in his first game. And I mean, you look at them, and I think they're for real. But on that western side of the SEC with Alabama and Auburn, A&M, and Ole Miss, I mean, it's so tough. So it'll be interesting to see how they end up. But I mean, I think he's going to have success. He's had it wherever he's went.
I said the same thing.
Yeah,
and Jay,
it's crazy.
You're kind of going in that direction. Just talking about some of the other teams this year. And you had Oklahoma fall, and they were 35-14, or they were up 35-14, against K-State, who stunned them last year in Manhattan. And then K-State puts up 24 unanswered to take down the number 3 Sooners in Norman on Saturday. What were your thoughts about that one and about maybe some of the other results you've seen either last weekend or prior to last weekend?
Well, I just think, and with Oklahoma, the question's always going to be, I mean, that doesn't necessarily surprise me just because, I think this year there's going to be upsets, and, I think it's going to be tough to go undefeated or, not have different things happen. But for Oklahoma, the question long-term is going to be, if and when they get in the playoffs, has their defense improved? Because we know Clemson and we know Alabama and some of these SEC teams have great defenses. At what point will Oklahoma play really, really, great defense is probably when they can win a national championship because we know their offense is going to be good. As far as some of the other games and some of the other leagues, I mean, I just think on a general term, Clemson's the best in the ACC. It'll be interesting to see what Miami does with them in 2 weeks when they have to play at Clemson to see if they're, really going to be a contender there. I think Florida State's weighed down, and Mike Norvell's going to have a long way to go with them. And then, Big Ten, obviously starting up later, we'll see. Ohio State has an easy schedule there. Big 12, I think there's going to be a lot of upsets in that league, and, they've got to prove that they can play defense. And then I think, to me, just with all the teams throughout the country, the way I see it is, and I'm not an SEC person. I mean, I think, there's great teams in other conferences, but obviously the Big Ten is probably going to be Ohio State, but they're playing later on and will be the best there. Pac-12's, I don't think there's a real dominating team there. So to me, I think it's going to be Clemson, and then a bunch of SEC teams are probably the top 4 teams. And I don't think they'll get 3 teams, but I would think SEC would get 2 if Clemson, the way it is now. I would predict Clemson, 2 SEC teams, and then either an Ohio State or probably Ohio State.
Hey, don't sleep on Wisconsin.
Or Wisconsin.
Do you think is this the year, given that all that's going on, that a team like UCF, if they keep playing the way they've been playing the first 2 weeks, just killing Georgia Tech and unfortunately East Carolina, is this the year that a team like UCF can finally break through?
Usually in the past I wouldn't really think so, but I think if they have to go undefeated. I think if they go undefeated and dominate, and yeah, I do think they will have a chance. Yeah, but they have to go undefeated and they have to dominate, because I think there's going to be SEC teams that are losing 2 games, and I just don't think anybody's going to necessarily go undefeated from some of these other leagues. So I think if there's any year, this would be it. And they look good, and they're good too. I mean, they're good. Their quarterback's legit.
Yeah, Jay, you just hit the nail on the head. You're going to have multiple 2-loss champions in those other leagues, and I think if you have that, and UCF goes undefeated and is very impressive in doing so, then they may have a chance. But even then, who knows? I'm not even so sure at that point.
Yeah, I mean, this would be the only year. Honestly, this is the best chance they would ever have this year.
Guys, I wanted to ask you about.
We were talking earlier how.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to make a point. Tim Brando actually said, if you want to, remember that, Bubba? If you want to get rid of the 4-team playoff, all you have to do is get 3 SEC teams in there. If you get 3 SEC teams in there, then everybody will get all upset to expand or do something different, like Ron was talking about earlier. Jay, would you mention that? Do you think there's a chance there would be 3 SEC teams in there?
I think 3 SEC teams probably deserve to be in there, but then this is just me prediction wise, but I don't think they would allow that to happen. I think they would limit it probably at 2, is my guess. Especially with the Big Ten and the Pac-12
Treat it like the basketball
and UCF. What'd you say?
Can you imagine?
Treat it like the basketball,
like you're saying,
championship means automatic berth. If you don't win your conference, you can't get in.
I agree.
Yeah, it's kind of shifting gears, and let's circle back around to the NFL. We talked that earlier, but when we were talking about the NFL earlier, and we never touched on the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, so much had changed with the Panthers prior to this season. Ron, what's your take on the first few games of the Matt Rule era?
Well, obviously got off to a bit of a rough start. That was a nice win against the Chargers. I thought just the way Justin Herbert played for, I still want to call him San Diego, but the way Justin Herbert played for the Chargers, I thought he was going to get it done for them. But, the Panthers hung in there. They did what they needed to do, forced a couple turnovers and a big stop at the end of the game. And I feel good for Matt Rule. Feel good for Teddy Bridgewater. You got to look and see what Cam Newton's doing up in New England, though, and be like, why was Carolina ready to just give up on this guy? That still doesn't make any sense. Cam Newton is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and he still is.
No question about it, guys. I'll tell you another thing is the obviously the NFC East is really bad. They used to be the joke NFC least.
Least, yep.
Yeah, and you look. I still don't understand the Peterson deal with Philly trying to go for the tie. It kind of reminds me of the Hey Bubba, the Peach Bowl with Sheridan going for the tie with NC State. But he said he regrets that and all this stuff. And I'm going, if you're an Eagles fan, you know you're gonna like that. I don't know. I just that was one of the biggest blunders I've seen in a long time. And I don't normally criticize coaching because I'm not an NFL coach, and there's a lot of stuff going in there. But that was one headline that I read on Sunday night and even Monday, that the Eagles fans are really having a hard time with that loss.
Well, how do you get a false start on a field goal attempt? That's what pushed him back and why he decided to go for the tie. They were ready to kick the potential game-winning field goal, but I think it was 54 yards or something like that, or maybe no, it was going to be a 59-yard attempt, but then the false start would have made it a 64-yard attempt, and they decided not to do that. But I think it's either today or yesterday was the 12-year anniversary of Lane Kiffin attempting or sending Sebastian Janikowski out there to attempt a 76-yard field goal for the Raiders, and he wasn't even close. But remember that it was against the Chargers, actually.
I had forgotten that, but Lane Kiffin doing very well. I was talking about earlier, Ole Miss. You have Lane Kiffin. I'll just say this, we'll get back. Lane Kiffin and Mike Leach. I mean, that SEC West, is there a better division in college football than SEC West? Oh, my goodness. Well, those coaches and teams, and then Mississippi schools have their bright moments. But, man, when you have Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin in Mississippi, my goodness.
Well, the SEC West has always been one of the best divisions in college football. And, yeah, you add those two guys. And if the Mississippi schools are good, it just elevates that whole division. And, maybe Arkansas will actually win more than 2 or 3 games, at some point.
That division is stacked. I mean, it's ridiculous how good it is. Because, I mean, even the teams that maybe don't win as many games this year, are going to have good coaches.
Yeah, Jay, you talk about, you brought up Arkansas, actually, as you, Ron, I believe, but Arkansas with Coach Pittman coming over from Georgia, and they gave the Bulldogs everything they wanted for about 2.5 quarters. It will be interesting to see how quickly that Razorback program comes along. I think Coach Pittman's a good fit there. I really enjoyed his introductory press conference and some of his press conferences shortly thereafter. Seems like quite the character, and I have to imagine that he's probably an excellent recruiter. We shall see.
Yeah, guys, Arkansas has been I understand the money, but do you think that they would be – I understand the money again. I'll say I understand the money the SEC brings to you. But don't you think they would have a better chance if they were in the Big 12 to win? I mean, they'd be knocking at the door. Maybe I don't know. I know they moved in 92, and I understand why they made the move and all that. But, man, they used to be – when I was growing up, guys, that was big-time football with the Razorbacks, and they just haven't been, in my opinion, they're just kind of irrelevant in the SEC. Granted, I know the money, I understand that, but I'm talking about to win a national championship. Do they have a realistic chance to win ever?
Well, I would say never, but
right.
You got to have the right coach in there, and I mean, you gotta have a special coach, and you gotta. It's a lot harder to win one there than at one of the other schools, LSU or Auburn or Alabama. And it's like you almost have to be perfect, to win one there. So is it possible? Yeah. But do I think that would happen? Probably not. Unless you got the absolutely perfect candidate in there. And then still you got to go through that conference schedule, and you're going to be behind those other schools as far as recruiting goes. And, I just think it's a really tough place to do it.
I talk about Arkansas.
Set the program back.
Yeah.
How much should Brett Bielema have set the program back?
Yes. Yeah. And then with Coach Bielema, and then you had that extreme change in philosophy from him to Chad Morris, and yeah. Needless to say, that didn't go very well. What was it? Was it just over 2 years he lasted, or something like that? Or was it even 2 years? It was kind of a John Thompson like tenure for Pirate fans. To give you an analogy.
Brutal.
That was but that's what I'm talking about with that program. Is you come in there and the expectations are going to be high because you're in the SEC. They had in the past a winning tradition, but now you're playing guys. I mean, every single week, like Jay said, Jay, you made a great point. It's possible that they could win the SEC West. It's possible they could win the SEC title, but the chances of them winning are, to me, very, very slim. If they were another conference like the Big 12, you have Oklahoma, Texas. There's a few teams in there, but you have much better chance. And I'm not saying that I don't understand why they made the move. Money is huge in the SEC. I get it. But, man, and another thing, too, that comes to mind, if you're playing a conference-only schedule this year like the SEC, what is it, 8 games, Bubba, guys? It could be where a lot of these teams have 2 or 3 losses because they're just playing,
10.
They're playing 10? Okay. I was thinking it was 8 for some reason. Anyway, but the fact is 8 or 10. The fact is they're going to be, I think they're going to be beating up on each other, even though it is the best league and they'll get 1 or 2 bids in the playoff. I get that. But there's a lot of schools that it's not doing them any favors just to play the conference schedule. You could have teams like Arkansas. Well, you could have teams that they don't have the non-conference games in there, so they're going to have a really even harder time, don't you think?
Yeah, something else I was going to bring up about the SEC though. I talked about the Georgia Bulldogs a minute ago when we were talking about Arkansas. How odd is it that Georgia's playing Auburn this weekend, and then I'm really looking forward to later on down the road. You have, I think it's the first weekend of November, Georgia and Florida. And that rivalry game, obviously, Georgia's had the best of the Gators in recent years, will be very interesting. I think this may be the year the Gators get back on top in that side of the conference.
Yeah, they look good.
Go ahead, Jay.
No, I just said they look good. And I don't know. I just have a feeling for them. I think with the bounce they have on offense and defense, and with Mullen kind of being there now and getting his system in place, this could be their year. And, with the instability at Georgia right now at the quarterback position, that could change with JT Daniels. But, that could be the difference.
Yeah.
In my opinion, SEC, it's been so top-heavy for the last decade, basically, with Alabama and Georgia and LSU, that when people refer to it as the best conference in the country, there are other conferences that have more depth, like the Big Ten, or especially the Big Ten. But when the SEC is deeper, if there's a team like Arkansas, which is very unlikely this year, but if there's a team like Arkansas that can actually have a 500 above 500 record within the league, or if Florida comes back to where they were when Tim Tebow was there and Chris Leak before that, when the other SEC teams are on par with what Alabama and LSU and Georgia have been the last decade, then yeah, all of college football is better and more interesting and more fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. Just nationally, we talk about the Big Ten and also the Pac-12 coming back into the picture. You have an obvious program like an Ohio State who's expected to be there in the playoff. But do you think maybe a Penn State or someone someone that's kind of semi under the radar could get in the picture?
Well, I may be a little biased, but I did mention Wisconsin earlier. I am a Wisconsin native, but yeah, obviously the Badgers, though, the big question with them is how do you replace Jonathan Taylor? But what we've seen from the Wisconsin program over the last, since Ron Dane, basically, and even before that, they basically went from Brent Moss to Terrell Fletcher to Ron Dane to John Clay. And, what Wisconsin does better than pretty much any other school in the country is turn out offensive linemen, tight ends, and running backs. And so I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name, but there was a guy who filled in for Taylor a few times last year who did pretty well. He's going to be the guy this year, but I, as I told Jay kind of jokingly earlier, but I'm half serious. Don't sleep on Wisconsin in the Big Ten. I think they're a team who could make some noise. And then it'd be interesting to see what PJ Fleck can do now that he seems to have gotten that Minnesota program turned around.
Yeah, I agree with you as far as Fleck. He's certainly done a tremendous job at Western Michigan and then at Minnesota. He had his doubters, but he and his regime, they just keep rowing the boat.
I knew you were going to say that.
But yeah, you can't talk about PJ Fleck without mentioning row the boat, and the two are synonymous for sure.
No question, guys. So, you guys, as far as the playoffs right now are concerned, college football playoff, do you have we'll leave you on this, then we'll wrap things up. Appreciate both of you coming on tonight. Who do you like right now? For what you've seen, the small resume that we've seen, and we've had a lot of postponed games, and understand that. Is it going to be the usual suspects, or do you think that there's a chance, before these conferences came back and they were opting out into the spring, Phil still even had UCF, a team very well run, and you've been tooting their horn as a potential number 4 seed, like the 4th seed of the playoff.
Heck, they don't have to be the 4 seed. But if from what I've seen from UCF the first 2 weeks, they are, by playing Georgia Tech from the ACC and East Carolina from the American, they are head and shoulders above any other team in the American. And if they keep playing, that offense seems to be unstoppable. I don't care what defense they're going against. Obviously, the question mark for a UCF, if they were to play a team like Alabama, would be how would the defense hold up. But I think UCF can beat anybody in the country. I would put them in there along with the SEC champ, the Big Ten champ, and then the Pac-12 is going to be kind of hard. They're only playing 8 games, so that's going to be difficult to see what they're going to be able to do. And then but that 4th team, probably, as Jay mentioned earlier, probably Clemson.
Yeah.
So that would be my 4. The ACC champ, most likely Clemson, the SEC champ, the Big Ten champ, and then UCF. That would be my 4.
Yeah, for me, I'd say Clemson. I mean, I'd say Clemson. I'll just throw Clemson, Florida.
Oh, wow.
Alabama. And for Ron, I'll go Wisconsin.
Hey.
Hey.
Helping a fellow pirate supporting Pirates right there. I like it. Guys, appreciate it very much coming on tonight. Jay, do you have any games coming up you can tell about us now? I know you said that with your injury, you still, hey, I want to ask you this question. There's a lot of, the voice was telling, I know on Total Clip Brock on Pirate Radio, and we're going to try to have him on very soon on the podcast, but on the show, but they're actually doing all their games at Dowdy Ficklin this year. So I was wondering, it made me think about you. How about Jay Sonnhalter doing the games from your home, watching on the monitor, still being able to get a paycheck? I'm trying to help you out, brother.
I know, God, I would love that. I am hopeful, and I hope that happens, and that may be an option coming up here soon, because My leg's still going to be a little while.
Yeah.
The only problem is just getting the technology together, but that may have to be an option here soon if my leg doesn't get better.
Well, I mean, with the East Carolina game, there was Mike Golick rather was in Bristol, Tennessee, and Dave was, what was the other gentleman?
Dave Pash was in Scottsdale.
Scottsdale, Arizona.
Yeah, they're ESPN's pretty much only bringing their sideline person to the games.
Yeah.
So
so maybe we'll keep pushing for you to do that. And Ron, what about you? What you got coming up that people could read, and certainly would love to promote you any way we can.
Well, August of 2021, I will have my second book coming out, A Sports Fan's Guide to Route 66.
Cool.
It follows Home Run on Wheels, which is about the 2018 baseball trip. But I just shared yesterday the first of what will be monthly blog posts to promote the Route 66 sports book. Nobody's ever done a Route 66 sports book before. Nobody ever thought to do it. But it starts in Chicago, ends in Santa Monica, California, goes through Los Angeles right before there. And so you've got every team or every major pro league represented in Chicago and Los Angeles. But then in between, you've got cities like Normal, Illinois, where Illinois State University, St. Louis with the Blues and Cardinals and St. Louis University, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Flagstaff, Arizona, Albuquerque. I mean, all of these campuses and venues are along Route 66. The Rose Bowl is along Route 66 in Pasadena, California, and every level of Dodger baseball, the Dodger Stadium is right on Route 66. So this book will cover all of that and more. I mentioned several high schools that are in this book. So I'm pretty excited about it. August 2021, A Sports Fan's Guide to Route 66 will be on bookshelves everywhere.
I can't wait. We'll definitely have you on before then, but certainly to promote your book, we're going to look out for you. Speaking of Pirates, supporting Pirates, how can people follow you on social media?
Ron_Clements. And then we are still publishing a lot of stuff at the Home Run on Wheels Facebook page.
Awesome. And Jay, to be fair to you, I don't think I asked you, how can people follow you on social media?
So I'm on Twitter. Gosh, what is my name on Twitter? It's JSunny91, and same on Instagram.
All right, cool.
The hardest part is just spelling my last name. I can't. I shortened it up for Sunny, so JSunny91.
No doubt, that's cool. But gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on. And Bubba, I know before these guys go, we've got I think that maybe we need them as backup tonight. We're going to be on a Georgia State podcast show. Isn't that right, Bubba?
Yeah, the state of Atlanta, right here on Facebook as well as YouTube. Just search the State of Atlanta podcast, and you'll find it either place. And we'll be talking to those guys, David Brown and company, about the Pirates and Panthers. Noon kickoff on ESPN this week.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate you very much, Jay and Ron. Means a lot to have both of you. And we'll look forward to Jay that you have in games, and Ron, look forward to that second book. That's awesome. I can't wait to read it.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, guys, so much. Good talking to you, Ron. Thanks, Dave. Bubba.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Appreciate
Have
it,
a good
Jay.
night, guys.
Thanks.
See you guys. All right. Bye-bye. All right, Bubba. Well, we're going to wrap this up, and I know that we have a lot of programming. People wonder in season. Not only we keep our traditional roots of what we do is we take this show and we make it a podcast. You and I work really hard on that, so I want for people to know that. By the way, if you're listening to us on a podcast, give us 5 stars. Even if you don't like us, give us 5 stars. We'd love to have you, obviously, to rate us. I think we need to do that more. There are a lot of people out there that love the podcast, so make sure you do that. We're on Amazon now, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Happy about that. So you can hear, if you love Amazon, they've added podcast to Amazon Music, so you can listen to us there. We're there as well. So Bubba, I know that get off here, and we're going to be on the other show. If you get a chance, folks, we'd love to. If you're Pirate fans, make sure that you definitely join us and help us out. We need some backup. I think they're going to come after us pretty hard with the Panthers taking on the Pirates.
Yeah, absolutely. Check it out. Again, State of Atlanta podcast, and it's right here on Facebook as well as YouTube just by searching State of Atlanta podcast. Very easy to find. I checked it out this afternoon. Additionally, we will have David Brown coming to our turf, so to speak. He will join us on Thursday night, 7:30, in addition to one of his cohorts there, Ben Moore of Panther Talk, their 24/7 sports site. So he's their Stephen Igo, if you will. And so we'll spend about a half an hour talking about the Pirates and Panthers with those guys on Thursday. And then also Brian Meador will return to the program. East Carolina's he does a lot with the video, does a tremendous job. I'm very passionate about the Pirates. Meador will be here at 8 o'clock on Thursday. And then Friday, the Inside Slant, as we'll catch up with Jeff Tarpley of Gig'em 24/7 to talk about Bama and Texas A&M, a top 10 matchup. You also have Navy play-by-play Pete Medhurst returning, and several other beat writers and analysts from around the nation.
It's going to be great. I appreciate your hard work on the show. Certainly, that's the Inside Slant's very tough, but Bubba makes it sound and look very easy. All right, we'll get out of here. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate Jay. Appreciate Ron very much, both of them. And again, as always, you can watch the show on Facebook. And of course, you can find all our shows archived on the YouTube channel. You've been listening and watching The Sports Objective, the unofficial podcast of the Pirates. Good night, everybody. Go Pirates.